This is Hall of Famer Marshall Faulk, and you're listening to the Fantasy Footballers.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from the FantasyJocks.com studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
It's Thursday, March 23rd. We're back.
That can only mean one thing.
Oh, when it's March 23rd, it has to mean mock draft. Is that what you were going to say?
Yeah.
Is it that time of year?
It is. Finally, we made it to when we can mock draft.
Believe it or not, we had our earliest mock draft last year in February.
Wow.
We were eager beavers. Welcome to the show. The Fantasy Footballers back again. Andy, Mike, and Jason. We have a great show. The earliest of early mock drafts happening today, live on the show. Some of our favorite episodes are these mock draft episodes. We are drafting together. We'll be doing a standard league, 12-team draft, drafting from the 3 spots. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be great. So great. We also have a little bit of news today, a great quick question. I had a dream last night, okay? I had a dream that Brooks quit. And
our great producer.
Yeah. Now, I've been giving Brooks a lot of grief lately because in our Dynasty League, he currently has Tyler Higbee in his flex spot alongside Martellus Bennett.
Putting him on blast.
And I've been putting him on blast because I'm pretty much just trying to, wear him down into the point.
You're trying to shame him into trading Tyler Higbee to your team.
You got part of that right. The shame part was correct. But I'm trying to shame him into trading me A.J. Green so he can get a better flex than Tyler Higbee. It's a long play.
It's a very strange strategy, right?
Look, your team's real bad, so make it worse.
No. Your team's real bad, so get 2 deliciously wonderful players from me. Don't shake your head over there, Mike. You're ruining my game.
Not even close.
So my dream, he quit. He quit the team. So Brooks, I appreciate the fact you're still here this morning. I'm not going to be relenting. Are you doing okay?
I'm okay. I'm here to stay.
How's Higbee?
He's great.
Okay, good.
He's going to be great this year.
I'm sure. It's flex-worthy. All right, we'll get into the mock draft very shortly. Quick question of the day, though. I want to know, look, this is a great question because I see him, speaking of that Dynasty League, I see him in a starting running back spot. Tevin Coleman. Where do you draft Tevin Coleman?
I believe you mean Tevin Coleman.
Oh, you got a Soul Man reference.
Coleman.
Tevin Coleman.
I hope that bodes well for him.
See?
Wow, you guys just ran with that.
Well, you got to run with it.
Cedric the Entertainer would be proud. All right, where do you draft the Soul Man? Where do you draft Tevin Coleman? Or can you think anymore?
Nope, I'm done.
Tevin Coleman right now.
Coleman.
Oh, my goodness.
We're just going to have to call him Tevin.
Right.
Okay, so Tevin.
TC.
TC.
Where's he
right
belong?
now he's going in the 4th round.
I believe he finished right around 20, right, in the running back ranks? I think 20, 21.
He had a lot of very large games last year where he would, especially through the air. I mean, you can look at his game log and you notice that, all right, he had, a big game here or there when it comes to more rushing the ball. But when it came to receiving, he had a game where he had 95 yards receiving, 132 yards receiving, 45 yards, 47 yards. So that's more the type of back he is.
4 games with more than 10 carries.
And
averaged around 8 probably for the season.
And he missed 3 games in the middle of the season where he was not playing. So to finish, in a half point at running back 21, I think that leads a lot of people to expect huge things from Tevin Coleman. And for me, I think he is being overdrafted right now.
Really?
I believe in the 4th round, that is too high for Tevin Coleman. I think that his role in the offense is there. It is there. But his role does not give him the opportunity that will see the kind of success he had last year.
Mike, I have a question for you. Dynasty League, Derrick Henry, Tevin Coleman, who do you draft first?
Oh, man.
Figure I'll put you on the spot there. That seems like
that's
2 names to throw out there. People like them. They're
That's
both
tough. I mean, I love Coleman. I jumped on that bandwagon last year, or I mean, it was actually, if you follow the show, I was on it his rookie year. I think he's an excellent player, but I'm with Jason. I think he's being overdrafted right now in redraft, or he will be
standard.
He'll be overdrafted when it comes to redraft time, just because he'll have major weeks. He's a flex-worthy guy, but he'll also have these weeks where he burns you. I mean, it didn't feel like there was a specific goal line role. Like the Falcons didn't say, "Okay, Coleman, you're the guy." It's
game flow.
Game flow. The package that they decide to put in, and so it's going to fluctuate.
Now we understand that if he took over the job,
he'd
due to
be
injury,
a monster.
He would be a monster.
Yes,
correct.
That's part of it, which is built into his price. And as far as for Dynasty, that's the thing you have to weigh is, are the Falcons going to re-up Devonta Freeman? There's been the chatter already of his contract situation is going to come to a head very, very soon. And
The answer is yes, they will.
and you think they will?
I 100% think they will re-up him. Everything that I've read from Atlanta when I was looking this offseason and last offseason to kind of see how do the Falcons feel about him, they say it's a priority. And that doesn't always mean that it can
Right.
happen, but given, how he is so important to the type of offense that they run, I think that and that they have said they want that to be a priority. I believe he's going to resign. So for me, I would take Derrick Henry.
Yeah, well,
even
and I would 100% point to Derrick Henry, because Murray, while he's here this year, maybe this is the last year of Murray in Tennessee, and then Derrick Henry can be a monster. I lean with Jason that they will re-sign Freeman, but what's crucial to the success of the Atlanta Falcons is you break down their cap of what they're spending on their running backs, it is minuscule. Devonta Freeman was, I believe, a 4th-round draft pick. Tevin Coleman's a 2nd-round draft pick, so they owe Coleman right around maybe close to $1 million this year. Devonta Freeman possibly.
That's chump change.
But that's
Chump
what I mean.
change.
Like, their cap, as far as their cap space, they can spend it elsewhere and have the team be great while you have awesome running backs for super cheap.
All right, we have some good news stories we're going to get into right here.
Tevin Coleman.
Oh, man. Good loving. I got a truckload. All right, Twitter, @the FF Ballers. You can follow the show. We're also on YouTube. Subscribe over there. You can watch the show. We are on the web, thefantasyfootballers.com. That's where you can submit questions to the show. We love to help you out. So you can find all of our amazing articles, including some fantasy reaction articles this week on Deshaun Jackson's transition to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, on Terrell Pryor heading to Washington. We have a strategy article about not drafting a defense. We have new reception perception articles from Matt Harmon coming out tomorrow on Friday. We have them Monday and Friday. Mike is staring down a small fly in the office.
There is a small flying being that is like
It's a being?
not
Yeah.
a bee.
No, I know.
If there was a bee, Mike would be
I would
doing
be
laps
gone.
around
I
the
would be
studio
gone.
just
You
screaming.
But
But
it's entertaining to you because you're laughing at it.
because
It's
it
just
keeps like fake dive bombing towards my beverage, and I don't want to swat it and knock everything off the desk, including my
you're
beverage.
afraid of this item, this little being, as you would call it.
Maybe.
All right, news and notes time.
News and notes from around the league.
The gift, he just doesn't go away.
Oh,
he just
man.
will not go away.
He's like a bad penny.
That's the best analogy. Kristen Michael has signed with the Packers. I loved the story on him. First it was visiting the Packers, then it was signing with the Packers. Then it was he's the only team. This was the only team interested in him in any way, and the only visit that he made.
The Packers are savage. This is now the 2 running backs that were on their roster last year, and they made them come in for a visit.
Yeah.
Right, that's an excellent point. So Kristen Michael is back with the Packers. Ty Montgomery, Kristen Michael comprise the backfield that I think will eventually have either a veteran or a rookie to add to the mix.
And
but
I agree that there's a likely chance they will add somebody. But at the same time now, there's also a chance that it's just Kristen Michael and Ty Montgomery. So I believe that the Ty Montgomery, especially the Dynasty people, had a mini celebration yesterday after the signing, because there's a chance now that he remains the the predominant running back for the team.
I would argue now that you sign Christian Michael and you have Ty Montgomery, it seems highly unlikely. So to your point, it seems highly unlikely that they would spend early draft capital on a running back, therefore handing a job to somebody in its entirety. So I think Montgomery has a role carved out. Mike McCarthy has been very vocal about the fact he is a running back. He is a running back. He is a running back. So, yeah, I agree with you. All right. Not a lot of news on the Marshawn Lynch front just yet. Pretty much a story came out interviewing his no real news.
No, I know, but you say just yet, like
there will be news.
You know that
right? There will be news one way or another.
Yes, there'll be much more smoke coming.
Marshawn Lynch, they interviewed his agent, who has not spoken to Marshawn Lynch, basically said, hey, he misses football. I saw another story yesterday talking about last year when the Seahawks were hearing from Marshawn that he was considering coming back. It was only going to be for the Oakland Raiders, even last year. And so if he came back, I expect him to be on Oakland. The question is, what do we know? And we don't know a whole lot more than we knew on
One of
Tuesday.
the things we know is where Marshawn Lynch has been for all of this, which is Canada.
Really good place to work out.
He's going to get back and be like, what's everybody talking about?
No way, man. He retweeted that little Oakland Raiders playlist.
The story from talking to a manager who has not spoken to Marshawn in quite some time. Oh, the offseason is the best.
Speaking of not that at all, Cam Newton will undergo surgery on his throwing shoulder to repair a partially torn rotator cuff.
Something you could have done 2 months ago.
I always think that with these surgeries. It's funny. I mean,
it's better if you can avoid the surgery, right? I mean, I think that's better if you can heal on your own. When you talk about long-term health of quarterbacks and their throwing shoulder, surgeries are not very good for that, which, we need to be aware of that with Andrew Luck, who also had an off-season shoulder surgery, Trevor Siemian if he's a starting quarterback. But this is not good news to have a surgery, not good news to have it this late, but he should be recovered in time.
Your medical school credits are coming in handy with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, surgery bad.
I have an update on the bug. He's now on my screen.
The bug is on your screen.
The bug is on my screen.
This is a small bug. I saw it fly by.
It is very tiny.
Latavius Murray underwent ankle surgery. I read about this. It is bone chips getting removed.
Bone spurs.
Yeah, being removed from the ankle. This is something that teams knew about. It's why he had to come in for a visit so their medical personnel could check it out. And they obviously signed him to a contract, minor surgery. They expect him to be ready for training camp.
Does
it concern you in any way?
Not.
He had
too
ankle
much.
problems at the end of last year.
He did, and
So.
Getting the surgery is something he needed to do. I always when news comes out like this and the team goes, we knew about this. I always wonder, obviously they brought him in, they did their medical check. I'm sure they knew, but it always makes me go like, what are they going to say if they didn't? We made a big mistake, guys. This guy
We had no idea.
We had no idea. Whoopsies. No, they're going to go, no, we knew about that, and we're fully confident, fans. Don't worry.
Seeing a general manager holding a press conference and then just making the shrug emojis, whoops.
Yeah, that doesn't fly. As a GM, you always have to pretend you know what's going on, even if you don't. All right, before we jump into our mock draft, which I'm stoked about.
Mock.
Yeah.
Yes.
Before we do that, I want to thank today's sponsor, great friends of the show, PristineAuction.com, the absolute best place to get authentic sports memorabilia across all the major sports. I'll tell you what, they do not get their memorabilia. They don't steal that out of Tom Brady's locker room, okay?
No.
It's authentic sources.
I've heard it's very valuable.
It is very valuable, but they've chosen not to do that just for you.
The high road.
They took the high road, and they have hundreds of daily auctions right now on PristineAuction.com. Look, we visit with these guys on a regular basis. They're based out here in Arizona where we are. Just an amazing company, a great owner, and a company that is out there trying to find the absolute best deals for you. And so definitely check out PristineAuction.com. You can go sign up on their website, PristineAuction.com. That's PRISTINE auction.com. Set up a free account. Let them know the Fantasy Footballers sent you. And let's go ahead and get into the mock draft.
The Fantasy Footballers Mock Draft.
I cannot believe how obsessed Mike is with this bug.
No,
I
will grant him this. I cannot believe how obsessed this bug is with his beverages.
Yes.
He's hopped to the left one, to the right.
Why
He's
do you have
nowhere
two
else.
beverages?
Well, I did not have time for the coffee in the morning.
So you've got you're doubling
Yeah.
down?
Yes, I did double fist it.
So your left arm is coffee, right arm is LaCroix?
Well, it's now empty.
Because the bug drank it?
I'm thinking about once I get this bug, because this is a big
gonna
moment in
frame it?
sports history. No, this thing's going on pristine auction.
Whoa.
Can you autograph the bug?
Certified killed by Mike.
I thought at least take a picture of it for Instagram. This poor little being,
I can do
as
that.
you said.
Go
All
ahead.
right, 12-team standard draft. We have we're going to draft from the 3 spot, and we're doing that because Jason said that's where he wanted to draft from.
Yeah, well, here's because this is our first mock draft of the year, there are a lot of people. I mean, one of the most common questions we get this time of the year is, where should I draft from? I can choose the number 1 spot to where to draft from. Where should I choose? And for me, when I have looked into mocks this year, I have been saying the 6th spot because there's 3, in my opinion, 3 stud wide receivers, 3 stud running backs. But I think the 3 is better because the more that I've done these mocks, I really want one of those 3 running backs. I want them bad.
Yes, well, you're going to get one today because we're drafting from the 3 spot. I'll go ahead and kind of give you the highlights of each round, just like we always do on these mock draft episodes. We'll make a decision. If we can't agree, we'll hand the keys to somebody, and they'll make the pick. But right now we're starting the mock draft. Again, like I said, 12-team standard draft from the 3 spot snake draft.
And this is at fantasydraftwizard.com.
That is
so
correct.
you can do your mock drafts at fantasydraftwizard.com. Very easy, quick to do.
Yeah, super fast. All right, number 1, Lev Bell off the board at number 1. Really, to me, these 3 guys are pretty interchangeable to me. If anybody makes a case to draft any of them over the other one, I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Ezekiel Elliott goes number 2, and so we are on the board.
Ooh.
We're on the board here, and
David
so
Johnson.
is David Johnson. What a better way to start our mock draft season with
Then
David
David
Johnson.
Johnson, who
You don't want Marshawn?
the more that he's tempting here, but I will pass. The more that I look into these 3 running backs, because obviously it is our job to order them,
Okay.
even though I feel like they're all good. You can make a case for any of them. I think David Johnson will end up in my number 1 spot.
Really?
Yeah, I mean his usage as both a running back and a pass catcher is just off the charts. Lev Bell has more injury concerns in my mind, so I think we are lucky to get David Johnson at the 3 spot.
Right now, I have Zeke as my number 1 standard guy, and Lev is my number 1 half and full PPR guy.
All right. And you can see our early rankings, which are coming into shape, slowly but surely, on the website, thefantasyfootballers.com. We did go with David Johnson rounding out that top 3. The next 4 picks are wide receivers, and that was Antonio Brown, Odell Beckham Jr., Julio Jones, and Mike Evans went 4, 5, 6, and 7 in the first round. LaShawn McCoy follows it up as the next running back off the board. I think that's one of the big questions out there is, hey, what's that next tier of running backs? Who's it going to be?
Him and DeMarco.
Sure. McCoy went, then A.J. Green at 9, DeMarco Murray, and Jay Ajayi, 10 and 11. Jay Ajayi at 11. Is there any wincing going on there? Is it just a fear of what he could be, what happens to that team? I do think Miami's a potential destination for a rookie or a veteran to land there. I don't know how much that will impact Jay Ajayi or not.
Maybe.
Yet.
I mean, they have Ajayi who, by this point, the team has to be happy and have some faith in him. They spent a high pick on Drake last year, so I can't imagine a high-profile guy will enter this backfield and mess things up. But for me, Jay Ajayi in the first, it's going to happen. It will happen in drafts. It's not for me. I know he had 3 games of 200 yards, absolutely incredible, but his other games were subpar. I mean, you're talking those other games he was averaging, 50 to 60 yards, and that's just for a first-round running back. If I'm going to get 3 humongous games and then 10 other just garbage ones, that's not a first-round guy to me.
Yeah, I think Jay Ajayi he's been given the keys. He's gone on the test drive. Everything looks good. But the loan could still fall through.
Right.
Right? Like he's not driving home with the car yet. Although I know Brooks is really hoping he does with him on his Dynasty roster. Jordy Nelson at 112. Love Jordy Nelson.
Jordy is so good. I mean,
really close to getting him yesterday in our Dynasty League. Disappointed that it fell through. But
since 2011, Jordy Nelson has the second most touchdowns receiving, and he didn't play one of those seasons. That's incredible.
Before we get out of the first round, why don't you drop that Odell Beckham Jr. stat you
so
dropped on Twitter, because he went number 5.
I was looking up doing research on Jordy, and I was blown away that he was the second highest, despite not playing in 2015, when it comes to receiving touchdowns since 2011. And then I look at the list, and I go, wait a minute. Why is Odell Beckham way up here? He was 15th on the list of total touchdowns receiving since 2011, but he wasn't drafted until 2014.
That's amazing.
I would say he's pretty good at football.
All right, second round. Since this is a snake, second round went Hilton, Howard, Des Bryant, and then 3 running backs in a row. Melvin Gordon, Devontae Freeman, and Todd Gurley. Gurley at this point is what? That puts him the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th running back off the board. Todd Gurley, do you like the value there before we draft? Okay.
I think when
not compared to who's left on the board.
Yeah,
so
I was going to say, I think I like Mark Ingram a little bit better, who's still available.
Interesting. I
like him a lot better.
Wow.
And when it comes
to
the 2 guys that I'm back and forth on have been Todd Gurley and Carlos Hyde. I think the offseason has gone better for Todd Gurley, but both those guys are all right. So I don't mind the value there, but I don't think
interesting.
It's fantastic.
I can see this mock draft being one of the first opportunities for us to see some of where we diverge in our opinions of players, which is great. I mean, why do you mock draft? You mock draft to get a lay of the land, to get an idea of where you actually value somebody, and it's a great way to prepare yourself for your fantasy draft. And more than that, it's a great way to see how value changes over time. That's the thing that makes a big difference when you mock draft on a regular basis.
Yeah, and doing it starting early like we're doing is actually important for that. You can't tell how things go over time if you're just jumping in late.
It also lets you test strategies like, go RB heavy, wide receiver early, that type of thing. All right, we are on the clock, gentlemen. David Johnson's on the roster. We're sitting here at 207.
A lot of good players left.
Running backs on the board, Carlos Hyde, Mark Ingram. Those are the big names to me. Latavius Murray.
Yes, voice of public opinion.
Aaron Rodgers is still available.
Oh, that's true. That's true. It is the second round, though, voice of public opinion. And I know you will assuredly draft him in the second round. But
I'm going first round, baby. No, we'll be looking at quarterback round.
Here's an
9.
interesting.
Who knows?
Rob Gronkowski's on the board. Did not go in the first.
I don't think he will this year.
Yeah, probably not. But he is sitting there at 207. Interesting. Brandon Cooks, DeAndre Hopkins, Doug Baldwin, Keenan Allen, some of the other big names. Allen Robinson sitting there. Devontae Adams, who had a great season last year. Anybody
back,
else in consideration from the names?
Carlos Hyde and Mark Ingram are on the board. Those for me, there's 2 guys that I'm deciding between. So I'll just say those 2 and hear your thoughts. I'm thinking Mark Ingram and I'm thinking DeAndre Hopkins. Now, I have been the one against Hopkins, but there's a 50-50 chance right now, I would say, in my opinion, that Tony Romo ends up in Houston. It's Houston or Denver to me.
There's a 100% chance it will not be Brock Osweiler.
Right, which is good. It's not. He didn't have that great a season with Tom Savage either. I think that was only like 2 games. But Hopkins' value, should Tony Romo be there, would be a first-round type of guy. If he's got Tony Romo throwing him the ball, in which case we already have the running back. However, my higher-ranked player is probably going to be Mark Ingram. So.
I do not have the level of confidence in Hyde or Ingram that you guys do where you put him in that. Like, if Gurley's on the board here, it's a done deal. I'm putting David Johnson and Todd Gurley on the roster. I got to be honest, maybe it's because it's March. I'm being swayed a little bit by this Rob Gronkowski name sitting on the board in the second round here. I don't have to spend first-round draft capital on a difference-making tight end. I understand you have to read into him as healthy, which has been an impossibility. I mean, it's been a while. Any temptation with Rob Gronkowski, or are you guys going with a running back or wide receiver?
I have I'll give you a twinge of interest in Rob Gronkowski, but not very much.
Yeah,
all right.
And I would say mine is less than that.
All right, then I'm going to yours is less than that. Okay, so where do we want to go? Why don't you 2 decide?
We both like Mark Ingram a lot.
Yeah, but if you're not sure on that, since we already have a running back, I'm also fine. Do you guys?
Well, Allen Robinson's the name I'd consider over Hopkins. So,
Okay.
I think because of disagreement on the wide receiver front, I'm fine with Mark Ingram.
So
I think we
you
go.
guys are both ready to go right back into the pool, second round with either Hopkins or Robinson.
I'm not going Cooks.
Going in the hot tub.
I'm not going Cooks. I'm not going Keenan Allen off the injury. I'm not going Sammy Watkins off the injury. I'm not going Alshon Jeffrey switching teams.
For me,
for me, Robinson or Hopkins are the two that I'd consider.
This is literally Tony Romo for me. Like
Right,
if I knew Tony Romo went to Denver, Hopkins would not be in consideration for me here. I would probably
gotta
be taking
make a
Mark
pick.
Ingram. So
We
let's
gotta
let's
make
go.
a pick.
Here's what I would recommend. Let's go Mark Ingram because we're going to be able to see at the end of this draft when we start with two running backs.
Where do we land
Are
up?
we decimated at wide receiver, or are we still good?
Well, I did it, guys. I went Mark Ingram. So we have David Johnson, Mark Ingram on the roster. Brandon Cooks.
We also had the quick turnaround.
Yes,
so
we did.
Don't forget about that.
Yeah, that's an important factor in your draft. If you're on snake draft, you're drafting towards the top or bottom of the round. You consider that with what's on the board and where your opponents are going to take a player or a position. Mark Ingram, we took him. Brandon Cooks, Carlos Hyde, DeAndre Hopkins, and Spencer Ware went with the next 4 picks. That leaves the likes of Keenan Allen on the board, Allen Robinson,
Doug
Baldwin, and guess who's still there in the 3rd round, gentlemen? Robert Gronkowski.
Okay, you can talk me into it in the 3rd round.
Yeah, I mean, you're sitting here with one of the best running backs in the league, David Johnson. You have the opportunity now, but you've rather than, let's say you had spent the pick of Ingram on Hopkins, would that tempt you more into taking Gronkowski?
Yes, it would-
because
it would
then you would
tempt-
have a running back and a wide receiver already?
Yes, for me it would. For me, my worry about taking Gronk here, we
have a big weight
yes,
for the next
exactly.
pick.
There's a lot of players, and there's still wide receivers here that I think are top flight. I mean, for my rankings, I've got Doug Baldwin as
He's
my
my
number
high-
9 ranked wide receiver. That's
He's
a wide
the
receiver
highest
1.
wide receiver left for me, and I have him also at number 9.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought I would be highest.
Well, if the number 9 wide receiver is on the board right here, we should take him, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
The logic is you take the number 9 wide receiver. I think we have, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 wide receivers off the board so far.
That's value.
It's value, and yet Doug Baldwin does what he always does. He just kind of
He does.
you kind of grimace.
Yes.
Because Keenan Allen, Allen Robinson.
Yeah, Doug Baldwin taking him as your 1 is not going to feel great.
All right, 3 of the biggest wide receiver names out there that are shiny and a lot of upside: Keenan Allen, Sammy Watkins, Alshon Jeffrey. They're all talented and they're all injured all the time.
Well, and they all
Doug
have
Baldwin-
far more inexperienced quarterback play.
Right. Doug Baldwin
inconsistent
is
quarterback
going to
play.
plug in, since we've already got our stud
not,
running backs.
Not Keenan Allen.
So let's make the decision right here, Mike. The pick is going to be to you, but I'm going to lay this out there. Are you going to be happy in a situation where you're putting Doug Baldwin on this team and not Rob Gronkowski in the 3rd round right now? Because it's 1-to-1 right now. Gronk's going to be gone. Baldwin's going to be gone. You're not getting both. Make the pick.
I'll go Doug Baldwin.
Doug Baldwin.
Yeah.
I like it.
Doug Baldwin is on the roster.
I'd rather have the experiment of the later round tight end. Like, let's get a lay of the land of who's available that we want
Like
to.
Tyler Higbee. Am I right? Am I right?
So our first quarterback goes off the board in the middle of the 4th. Aaron Rodgers, followed quickly by Andrew Luck at the 9th pick of the 4th round. After we selected Doug Baldwin, Gronk went with the next pick. You had C.J. Anderson and then 3 wide receivers, Robinson, Watkins, and Adams. Keenan Allen's gone. Obviously, we had a long wait to the next pick. You saw Alshon Jeffrey go. Demaryius Thomas is gone. Robert Kelly in the 4th round. How confident would you be with that pick?
As of today, that'd be a great pick.
That is fantastic.
But
obviously, if they
He went ahead of Latavius Murray.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
as he should. I mean, if they go and get a Leonard Fournette, a Dalvin Cook, and say, hey, we're going in another direction, then obviously this will change after the draft. But right now, he's the starting running back for a really good offense, and he has been fantasy relevant. This is a 4th round. I would much rather have that than Latavius Murray
Interesting.
behind
Okay.
Minnesota's offensive line.
All right, so only one tight end did go off the board. Rob Gronkowski went off. Kelsey, Jordan Reed still on the board. Greg Olsen on the board. At the wide receiver position, let me give you a lay of the land. Jarvis Landry's there. Terrell Pryor, Michael Crabtree, Julian Edelman, Golden Tate, Dante Moncrief. And then at the running back position, not a strong consideration for me, but you do have that flex to fill and some depth. Latavius Murray, Jeremy Hill, Jonathan Stewart. Jason, talk a little bit about evaluating tiers at this point in the draft and how it might define your decision.
Yeah, so when you get to this round, this is really where you can start to see, all right.
Yeah, fourth round is always muck.
Yeah, fourth round is where you go, okay, there's some guys I kind of like in every different position. And so you have to look at your rankings and your tiers and say, okay, how many guys are left is what I look at in each tier. So there might be a tier 3 wide receiver, and he's the last in that tier. So then I know I've got to pull the trigger on him. But if there's 4 guys left, I mean, once we make this pick, we're quick back on the clock. So I'm going to go, there's plenty of guys in this tier. Even if I like so-and-so a little bit more, I'm going the other direction. There's a guy for me.
Go ahead.
That I think I would take here that I'm confident will be around in a few more picks, and that's Terrell Pryor. I think when we look at our roster, Doug Baldwin is, tried and true, a little bit more steady. Terrell Pryor to me has that upside, that shiny, like he could end up being a top 10 wide receiver. And that would be a 5th round pick. That's where I'm fine taking that risk on the high upside.
Yeah, to me, I draft Latavius Murray here. I think he's the last in my tier of running backs of relevance here, a volume running back. No, I don't like Minnesota's offensive line. No, I don't like that situation. But he's going to fall into the end zone, and he's going to get the ball a lot. I don't see that opportunity coming for Frank Gore. I don't see that opportunity for Jonathan Stewart because I think Carolina drafts it back. Jeremy Hill struggled. You've got Bilal Palomir, Abdullah. I mean, Latavius Murray is standing alone to me as a volume running back on an offense that did move the ball with Sam Bradford.
As I've been doing these mock
I would
drafts,
take Latavius Murray.
The one running back who keeps falling later and later and later who I actually like, and I think in real life I'm going to end up with him, and you might be grossed out by this name because I think I can end up with him even a round later, is Matt Forte. He's old. He's, Bilal Powell's being drafted like 2 rounds ahead of him, but he is a guy that I think he's still got it. He was pretty good last year, but I'm not considering him here.
I'd take him on my bench, yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it's Latavius in this opportunity here. I do think that Terrell Pryor will drop to the next round, and there's enough wide receivers that I like to fill in that wide receiver 2 role. I like depth at running back. The chance of Mark Ingram getting injured, it's up there. And so I would like to have another high-tier, high-volume running back, but I can be swayed. What do you guys think?
I'm with you that Latavius is interesting here for the volume. I disagree with you that Frank Gore won't have that opportunity. I mean, 263 carries last year. They're a team that they're being linked to, some running backs in the draft, whether or not that happens. But there's still a chance that he has the opportunity. And meanwhile, there's a handful of wide receivers here, but we are in a standard league, so I actually like Crabtree as my pick here. But I also I will fall in line with, if you go Murray here, we can risk it that there's a chance that Crabtree falls back to us.
You want to take the shot?
That's what I'm willing to do that.
All right, let's take the shot.
Or who do you think is more likely to come back, Latavius or Crabtree?
I think Crabtree's more likely to come back.
I agree with that, but I think both would be gone.
Well, let's find out.
I would rather have Crabtree and Terrell Pryor than Latavius Murray and Terrell Pryor, but I think both are good options.
What about Latavius Murray and Michael Crabtree?
Oh, Crabtree is still there.
Who dares wins, my friends.
It's interesting, though, because I did think
Terrell Pryor didn't make it back.
I did think about Jordan Reed there. Tom Brady went tight end, quarterback, tight end. We took Murray. It went Kelsey, Brady, Reed, and Pryor. So Pryor ended up going at the second pick. I would have been in the Crabtree camp probably.
Over Terrell Pryor, you're saying?
Yeah. I understand your logic there with the kind of like the upside of Pryor, but we've taken the choice. We've made the choice to go 3 running backs already, and so I like doubling down on reliability there. And so I think Michael Crabtree is a good pick. I think we're all in agreement. We'll take him here and not meander on this pick too much. So right now our roster is David Johnson, Mark Ingram, Doug Baldwin, Michael Crabtree, Latavius Murray sliding into the flex. Certainly solid performers on this team. let's go ahead and see what happens the rest of the fifth round. Jeremy Hill went. Highlight to this round, Stefan Diggs. Stefan Diggs went one spot ahead of Julian Edelman. What are your thoughts on that, Mike?
It's a standard league. I don't hate it. Stefan Diggs, I mean, he's such an interesting guy because you've seen, I mean, just incredible flashes. You remember how he started last year, weeks 1 and week 2. You look like you stole a top 10 wide receiver late in the draft. Turned out that wasn't the case as he kind of meandered there for a few weeks.
And then burst again for 3 weeks.
And then he exploded again, and then he vanished again. It's attributed to injury, but he is a guy that I think will be kind of the new hotness this year. That not only fantasy geeks will know about, but kind of like the more mainstream public players will know about this year. So he'll be very polarizing in the draft. But to take him before Edelman I would not do that.
Is that just Brady versus Bradford?
Yeah, even I'm fine with Bradford. Bradford could be sneaky. Like the Minnesota passing offense could be very sneaky in this next season.
If there was some point per completion league, you'd be all over Bradford.
Sure, but
point per 5-yard completion.
Yeah, it's his second year in the system. We saw that it can work. He was the most accurate quarterback of all time for a single season, and he missed week 1 because he was just traded there as the season started. Just saying, there's some sneakiness.
There's
very, very sneaky.
There's probably some of you listening out there that's saying, okay, why are you not talking about quarterbacks? The quarterback run just happened, all right? We took Michael Crabtree with our 5th pick. Breeze, Russell Wilson, Matt Ryan, Cam Newton, and Ben Roethlisberger all off the board before our next pick. And look, the reason we didn't take quarterback is because of that happening, the potential for that to happen, and the fact that when the quarterback run happens, you benefit at a different position. We've talked about it.
There's still 3
all
wide
of the
receivers I
time.
love on the board that were there last round because quarterbacks got taken. And when I look at quarterbacks, the difference between those tiers of guys that were just being drafted, Ben Roethlisberger, Cam Newton, Matt Ryan, and guys that will be drafted way later, like Jameis Winston, who I've got my eye on in almost every draft because he's late, and I think he'll be great.
My eye on you.
I would much rather have Jameis Winston several rounds from now or any number of guys and grab a great wide receiver here to fill out our team.
So right now, 8 quarterbacks have been drafted by my count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 quarterbacks in a 12-team league. On the board, Derek Carr, Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, Matthew Stafford, Jameis Winston.
I would love
even
all of those
Andy
guys.
Dalton is somebody that can start for your team. You can fill in those other positions, and you can stream. We're all about streaming the quarterback position. You can do that here.
One of the best values this year might actually be Blake Bortles. Because Blake Bortles is, I believe, going mostly undrafted this year. Like, he's not going to be a late draft pick. I think he might go undrafted
on principle.
In many leagues, on principle. In the last 2 years, he's been a top 10 quarterback in fantasy.
You're supposed to warn those operating heavy machinery
I apologize.
before you talk about Blake Bortles.
I apologize. But when it comes to fantasy, it doesn't matter if he's got a bad throwing motion or if he's throwing, just making terrible decisions.
Here's what's incredible about Blake Bortles. I mean, I'm looking at this. Last year, so he finished as the 10th best quarterback, first of all. So we already said 10 are off the board, and Bortles is probably not in the next 3 or 4 picks for us, even if we took a quarterback. That being said, finished number 10. How many 3-touchdown games did Blake Bortles have last year? I don't know if you know which direction I'm going here.
I can see it, so I will.
Well, that's cheating. that is the definition
I'm going to
of
guess
cheating.
one.
That is a great guess.
He had 1. So it's kind of a crazy year. Certainly one of those guys where if you just watch the game, you go, oh, man, I don't want him on my fantasy team.
And what's interesting about him, Bortles, compared to, there's other guys. I was talking about Mariota a lot in the office yesterday. Bortles really only looked like one performance there where he absolutely devastated you. He had a couple performances where you would want more out of your quarterback, but you compare him to Mariota, who people want. I think that the public wants Mariota far more than Blake Bortles. Meanwhile, Mariota had a at least a handful of games where he destroyed your team.
Some interesting picks here in the 6th round before, we had a long wait before our next pick. I'm interested in this, Jarvis Landry.
Wow, that's a great
It's a standard league pick.
Yeah, standard
league, but he went,
changes it.
8th pick in the 6th round. I like it. Eric Decker, 9th pick in the 6th round. I like that too. I mean, Eric Decker quietly just sitting in New York, still on a roster, no Brandon Marshall, kind of a monster on that team. If it's him and Anunwa and Josh McCown slinging the rock with no regard for human life or interceptions, because that might be the best way to describe
Those
Josh
3
McCown.
games are going to be great.
Is no regard for his own human life. I love Eric Decker as a sneaky play.
Yeah.
He's not going to be flashy, and the value you're going to get on him is great.
Jarvis Landry, to go back to him, he only had 4 touchdowns last year.
Yep.
So where do you think he finished in standard wide receiver?
I'm going to guess 13, 14.
I would go like 17.
You guys are right around at 16,
Okay.
which we're well past.
How can
16
you argue with
receivers.
that? Yeah,
that's a great pick.
All right, we're on the clock, guys. 7th pick of the 6th round. Some wide receivers to talk about. Golden Tate's on the board.
Golden Tate, Jamison Crowder, Deshaun Jackson. Those are 3 guys that I love. Like I really like
I'm
coming
in on
into this year.
In a standard league?
Yes.
I am fully in on that. The other name I would toss in is I would consider Brandon Marshall here.
You would consider, yeah, I could see that. What about Zach Ertz? He ended the second half of the year as the number 1 tight end. You already have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tight ends off the board ahead of him. Any confidence that Zach Ertz can get it done this year?
I
or is
don't know,
it not
man.
worth the pick? Better to find a value later.
I would prefer to find a value later. Zach Ertz, he is. I mean, like you said, I don't remember what week it started, but he went on just a full tear in the last half or so. Was averaging the most points at the tight end position. However, there was no alpha wide receiver in Philadelphia at that time, and they've got one now.
I want to toss the pick to Jason, let him make the call for us here. I do want to remind listeners right now, we're sitting here with David Johnson, Mark Ingram, Doug Baldwin, Michael Crabtree, and Latavius Murray. If you do not draft a quarterback or tight end here, which it seems unlikely that we're going to do either of those, you are drafting depth at this time. You're not drafting necessarily a starter. You're drafting depth. I think that scares people off doing it because they say, "Hey, let's fill that." You got to, I get that question a lot.
Fill your starters.
Do you fill your starting lineup out before you look to depth?
No.
Well, then make the pick for me. I guess we're not going to tie it into quarterback.
Yeah, I definitely recommend not doing that. Get your running backs and wide receivers deeper. For me, because it's standard, I'm actually going to go Jamison Crowder because I think in a standard league, he was a red zone target last year. It was almost surprising how many red zone targets he got. You've got Deshaun Jackson gone. You've got Pierre Garçon out of there. I think Jamison Crowder is a really important piece. He's young. I like him here as a depth piece.
I will allow you to select that wide receiver there, Jamison Crowder. I will tell you this. I thought your entire sentence was going to end with Brandon Marshall's name at the end of it. when you said, okay, because it's a standard league, I thought I'd get the Brandon Marshall or Deshaun Jackson talk because both of those guys touchdown opportunities at least fit their size better. Jamison Crowder coming out of the slot. I think it's a little bit anomalous. Like, I wouldn't have taken Jamison Crowder there because I think his touchdown numbers are anomalous with Jordan Reed being a little bit banged up last year. The wide receivers Crowder was throwing to was not Terrell Pryor and Josh Doctson. It was smaller guys. Pierre Garçon is a possession type of guy. Deshaun Jackson was on and off the field. I would have gone a different direction, but Jamison Crowder has been drafted.
And I like that. One of the things I just want to throw out there,
I win.
I won, is that I feel like guys that get a lot of receptions, right? The Julian Edelman, Wes Welker types, the Jarvis Landry, the slot guys. In a PPR, it is almost counted against them. Like, it's like they're like, oh, that's just a PPR guy. You realize receptions are still like the only way they score.
They count that in standard leagues?
Right. It's like you have to catch the ball to get any fantasy points. So it's not a bad thing to have a lot of receptions.
All right, well, Brandon Marshall made it around to us, but you know who else did? It jumps off the page to me right here. At least sitting in the 3rd pick in the 7th round. Frank Gore is still there.
Yeah,
Frank Gore is still sitting there.
There is a handful of very interesting running backs to me at this point in the draft.
Paul Perkins.
Matt Forte, as I said.
Frank Gore to me. So Frank Gore, Montgomery, Forte, maybe. But also, I mean, we're at the point here where we're mock drafting in March, so it's extremely early that we have no idea what they're doing. But he's still allegedly a starting running back, despite the fact that he will be suspended for 3 games.
I was wondering if you were going there because I was going to point him out.
Doug Martin is still on the board.
The upside of Doug Martin as your fourth running back in this situation, based on not knowing what happens in the draft, to me, it's between Paul Perkins actually and Doug Martin because they're in similar situations in the fact that they have upside. If New York doesn't do anything else in their backfield, Paul Perkins has a lot of upside. That offense with Shepard, Marshall, and Odell Beckham Jr. on the outside, to me, there's an opportunity there for Paul Perkins to make some hay.
There's an opportunity there. I went back the last 3 years and kind of took a look, though, at how much did running backs weigh? Because it factors in the success of running back, how much their mass. And guys who are under 210 pounds it's far more infrequent for them to actually have success, to have top bill fantasy success. And Paul Perkins is a smaller guy, right around that 200 mark, unless he's managed to put on some muscle this offseason. So I would go, even with my disdain for Doug Martin at this point in the draft, I would still be okay taking him.
Yeah, and I would as well.
What about Tyreek Hill? Tyreek Hill's still on the board here.
This is where I shift to upside.
Good.
I'm
glad he's there.
This is where I shift to upside in a draft where I go, I've got kind of starters I'm confident in. Who can break into the starters? Doug Martin absolutely could, right? He comes back from his suspension. If he's still the Tampa Bay Buccaneers lead back, he's a top running back, so that's great. Tyreek Hill fits that bill.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill finished the year at 13 last year.
Exactly. Tyreek Hill could. I don't necessarily think he will, but he could. So I like Tyreek Hill. I like Doug Martin. I'm between those two guys. Someone make the pick.
We'll let Andy make the pick.
I'll take Doug Martin.
Oh,
I'll take Doug Martin. Well, I didn't feel very confident in the Mark Ingram selection where we did. I'll take Doug Martin for the potential upside. We're gonna roll. We're gonna roll way down into the back of the 8th round now. Some names off the board. You have Derek Carr and Dak Prescott both going. Interesting that Dak Prescott went ahead of Derek Carr. I would have taken Derek Carr ahead.
I have Dak ahead of Derek.
Okay.
I have Dak scary high.
Matt Forte off the board. Frank Gore's gone. And Forte went actually – where did Forte go? A couple spots after Frank Gore. Amir Abdullah off the board. Kenny Brett and his new home in Cleveland is gone. And then Cameron Brate, who had a very good year last year, off the board as well. We're sitting here now, back of the 8th round. Kyle Rudolph is sitting there, and he should be the pick.
Look what I wrote down on my sheet of paper. Kyle Rudolph is what it says.
Yeah. I know grammar. That's what it says right there.
That being said, I would also consider because I really like Jack Doyle, for instance.
Oh, yeah.
I like Kyle Rudolph more, certainly. But Tyreek Hill is still here. And we just looked at, should we take Tyreek Hill or should we take Doug Martin?
I guess I didn't see Tyreek is still on the board. I think we'll take Tyreek. I'm gonna go ahead and
there are
get
still
the freak off the board.
Plenty of quarterbacks. All the quarterbacks gone. There's still Kirk Cousins, Stafford, Jameis Winston.
Let me pose this question to Mike. We're sitting here now. We took Tyreek Hill, Zinner, Deshaun Jackson, Rashard Matthews off the board. 3rd pick of the 9th round. Is this the time you jump on Kirk Cousins here, Mike? Because you're in the 9th round. Is there a tier change from Kirk Cousins to Stafford, Rivers, Winston?
I'm pulling up my quarterback rankings right now, and
by the way, Kyle Rudolph's still there. Gio Bernard, Paul Perkins still on the board. The depth on our roster right now is looking mighty fine.
I love it.
And I have Kirk Cousins right now as my number 7, and I have Jameis at 10, Matthew Stafford at 11. So
you would not really say
I still
that.
have 3 quarterback ones
we can
available to me.
Me as well.
And despite my affection for Kirk Cousins and would want him on my team, I would probably still roll the dice here.
Rudolph seems like a big tier advantage over guys that are still on the board, like Martellus Bennett, Ladarius Green, Zach Miller, C.J. Fedorowicz, Jared Cook, Eric Ebron.
I agree. When I looked at Greg Olson's horrendous second half of last year and started looking at the bust rate weekly of tight ends, and I was disgusted over the season that Greg Olson actually did have a very good year because I wanted to prove him wrong because he destroyed my fantasy team. The other guy that was tied for him as best with not having bad games was Kyle Rudolph at the top of the list. So I love getting him here. I agree. He's a big tier drop from him to anyone else.
Mike, are you okay with Kyle Rudolph here?
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
I already talked about how I think the Vikings can be very sneaky. Sam Bradford's accurate, loves throwing to the tight end.
So our team now
Go ahead.
would be
give the run back
starting running backs of David Johnson and Mark Ingram. We got tried and true Doug Baldwin, Crabtree at the wide receiver, flexing in either Latavius Murray, Jamison Crowder, Doug Martin, or Tyreek Hill. Plenty of depth for injuries, for bye weeks, for all of that, for matchups in the flex. And then we've also got Kyle Rudolph in that flex. I really like how this team is turning around. And at the quarterback position,
It's already turning around, huh?
the quarterback position still has 3 quarterback ones, according to both Mike and my rankings, in Kirk Cousins, Matthew Stafford, and Jameson Winston.
Interesting name there.
Yeah.
Danny Woodhead goes off the board in the 9th round. That might interest people. Paul Perkins finally went off the board in the 9th round. A name that I was hoping might drop through was Willie Snead. He actually went with the 4th pick of the 10th round. A little disappointed in that.
I know my pick here.
At this point, some names on the board. Upside of Josh Doxson sitting there. You have Tyler Lockett. Running back-wise, it's quite thin at this point. I'm glad we have 4 of them. Kirk Cousins, Matthew Stafford, Jameis Winston, all still on the board. Jason says he knows the pick. I hope it's not another Viking.
It's not. I do love Adam Thielen, but because we have Kyle Rudolph and they don't have a high-powered offense, I'm not taking a stab at both of them. Because I wouldn't want to be forced to play both.
No, Brooks, it's not Tyler Higbee. No,
I know.
No, it is not.
So
I know you want
tempting
that 2nd, 3rd, 4th tight end to fill out your flex position. No, Brooks.
No,
calm down.
There are some good upside guys like Kevin White and Josh Doxson, but for me, and maybe this is a little too early to grab him because I think we can get him later, but I don't want to lose him.
Is it John Brown?
It is John Brown.
Yeah.
John Brown is a guy who has been a top fantasy wide receiver already in his career, who is on a great offense, and last year is stuck in everybody's mind. To get him here in the 9th or 10th, when he's a guy that just might end up becoming a starting wide receiver over the likes of Doug Baldwin and Michael Crabtree.
I agree. Are you cool with John Brown, Mike?
Yeah, I'm okay. The only other name I was going to throw out there is Tyrell Williams is still available, and he is very interesting at this point.
He's very interesting.
So here's how I would look at the strategy. We basically have 2 bench spots, our quarterback, and then the defense and the kicker. For me at this point, I think we take John Brown. We have the quick turnaround into the 11th round. I think we take our quarterback then. And then you take a flyer with that last pick. One thing that you should
to me, we have 1 bench spot.
That's exactly what I was going to say is we really only have 1 bench spot because
because
why is your reason?
Because Rex Birkenstocks is still available.
Oh, yeah, Rex Burkhead. Yeah.
Hey, if we can end up with Rex Burkhead and John Brown, as our final running back and wide receiver guys on the bench, I'm pretty happy with that.
Took John Brown, still have all 3 of those quarterbacks on the board. I would worry that if we take Burkhead now, that all 3 would be gone.
Well, look, DeAndre Washington is still out there, and as of right now, Oakland has not replaced the starting running back, which would mean DeAndre Washington would be there. I think there are enough.
By the way, Jalen Richard's going ahead of DeAndre Washington. In ADP right now.
Yeah, I would take him ahead of Washington.
So what do you want to do?
Yeah, I would.
Wow.
Do you want to take Kirk Cousins here? Do you want to take Matthew Stafford? Do you want to take Jameis Winston? Or do you want to take Burkhead and wait and see what quarterback we get with our last pick?
I believe that once drafts are really rolling, Rex Burkhead will not be available this late. But I'll take Kirk Cousins here.
All right, let's take Kirk Cousins. We're rounding out this draft, closing it down.
I would have got
Tyrell
Stafford,
went after him. Kirk Cousins is our quarterback as of right now. And with our final pick, you see some defenses going off the board. Malcolm Mitchell went in the 11th round. 12th round, you have Darren Sproles, could be sneaky there. I really think there's a value potential for Sproles on that offense. Torrey Smith went in the 12th round. James White, Jameis Winston. Brashad Perryman. Adam Thielen's still on the board if you want to complete the entire Vikings roster.
So, wait, did Rex Burkhead go, or is he still available?
I believe the Rex Burkhead.
He's going to still be available. Now, the thing about what's interesting here is Philip Rivers is still available. I mean, perennial quarterback one here.
Burkhead is gone, by the way.
Oh, is he?
Burkhead went in the 9th.
Oh, I wasn't.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That just happened then.
Well, not really. But
Well,
we're
yeah.
we're in the 13th or 12th. So
The captain let me down. He did not let me know.
yeah,
that Rex
Burkhead is
was
gone. So Adam Thielen, Marvin
sucks.
Jones, Cameron Meredith. If you wanted to go, DeAndre Washington.
Wait.
The truth is
whoa.
we're probably dropping a guy. In a real season, what I do here is what I don't want to do is take a guy that I think might be good, might have a shot at being good in week 7, because he's not going to be on my team. I need a guy that can pay off in week 1 and make it look good to me that I drafted him with my last pick. If a guy cannot flash in week 1 here, he's going to be gone whether or not he flashes in week 6. So for me, I want to make sure I take a guy that can do that.
Sure.
For me, I'm not sure who that is. It's probably Adam Thielen.
For me, there's no chance I take a wide receiver here. 0. I take another running back because I look at my roster. I've got plenty of wide receivers. I'm going to be able to get wide receivers off the waiver wire.
All right, we're running out of
need it.
time. Close it down.
I'm taking DeAndre Washington. As of now, he's the starting running
That's a
back
good
behind
pick.
Oakland's, starting or
I wouldn't say
50-50.
that he's the starting running back.
Yeah,
That's
or
very
or
presumptuous.
the 50-50 timeshare guy.
He's in a timeshare. I would say that.
And, defense, I'll go ahead and take the hometown Cardinals. And we'll close it out with
I'll remind people here, we have an article that just went up on the website talking about rethinking your draft of, if your rules do not specify it, don't draft a defense.
Right.
Don't draft a kicker. Take another shot on these high upside flyer type of guys who maybe something happens during training camp and all of a sudden, well, that player has now shifted into a starting role.
A perfect example of that, real quick, is handcuffs. I don't usually like drafting handcuffs at the draft, but if they're guys I'm going to have to drop before week 1 to then sign a kicker or a defense, then I'm like, oh, great. Well, if the starter gets injured in preseason, I've got a player.
Oh,
I really don't know how to tell you this, Jason. It's going to disappoint you, but Chandler Catanzaro's already gone.
Oh.
So I ended up having to take Matt Bryant.
Wow.
Matt Bryant was
That's pretty good.
So why don't you guys run back our roster for us?
Well, I was gonna throw out. I saw him still available, and it was just oh, how the mighty have fallen. Marvin Jones was still available to be drafted.
Week 3 last year.
when
everyone is bailed.
It stings so bad when you draft a guy and when he has an explosion type of game like he did against Green Bay.
You just keep playing him.
And then
if Marvin Jones didn't have week 3 where he exploded and everyone thought he was going to be great and he just had an average season last year, he would be drafted right now.
Yes, he would.
That makes no sense. All right, so our final roster, we got Kirk Cousins, David Johnson, Mark Ingram, Doug Baldwin, Crabtree, Kyle Rudolph, Latavius Murray, Cardinals and Matt Bryant, and then a bench of Crowder, Doug Martin, Tyreek Hill, John Brown, and DeAndre Washington.
Final thoughts on this roster, gentlemen, before we close out our early mock draft of 2017.
Say I feel okay.
You feel okay?
I feel okay.
Do you feel a little bit of a lack of flash at the wide receiver position?
No. I feel it. Maybe it's the fact of, like, when you don't get one of your guys, the later round, that sleeper that you just want to have.
So Burkhead ruined everything for
It
you.
really did.
But I really like this team. I think it's set up for a standard league and got the important pieces where they matter, I believe.
Right.
So, and our depth, I think, is very good as well.
I think that's an interesting part of the mental game of, you can set your heart on one of these late round guys, and then if you feel like, oh, I didn't get that one guy, it destroys everything for you. It shouldn't, because the draft is still solid. I'm choking. Probably the
Is
bug.
it the bug in your throat?
He's been eaten.
One final reminder before we close out the show, too. Please, I know it's hard because we all love a pat on the back, and we all remember being in grade school and getting that A+. But please don't read too much into any of the mock draft evaluation grades that you'll get from Yahoo or from FantasyDraftWizard.com or anything. Look, this is so early. Those things are based on just algorithms of where guys finished, and you're trying to draft a team that can win the championship, not win the post-draft reviews.
If you want to win that, just close your eyes and hover your button over auto draft or whatever, and draft whoever it says to draft every single time, and then you'll get an A, and you'll lose horrifically.
If you do want further help in dominating your fantasy football draft, check out our Ultimate Draft Kit at ultimatedraftkit.com. I've got these guys booping on my screen here. UltimateDraftKit.com. We have 100-plus player profiles. This was a huge hit last year to get you ready for your draft. Draft time is the best time of the year. We absolutely love it, and you can keep it right here on the Fantasy Footballers Podcast.
The draft time
TheFantasyFootballers.com. The draft time is the right time, especially if you want to get Tevin Coleman.
Oh, check out FantasyDocs.com. The promo code is Footballers. Goodbye.
Tyler Higbee, undrafted. Wow.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.